What's up, everybody? This is Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars. I'm going to tell you today why I don't think the Jaguars will ever win a championship with Urban Meyer as their head coach. And I'll tell you today here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? What's going on? And thanks for making Locked On Jaguars your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. I'd also like to make sure I tell you that today's sponsor is Rock Auto, where there's an amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. A lot to get into today, a lot to sort of dissect. Of course, I was on vacation and all hell broke loose. Viral videos of the head coach here in Jacksonville, I guess having fun or whatever you want to call it, up in Ohio on the bye, not really a bye weekend. The Jaguars played on Thursday. Obviously, Urban Meyer, you good guys didn't know. I'm going to set it up real quick. Didn't fly back on the team plane, stayed out to hung out with the grandkids or whatever, and ended up in this bar or in this restaurant. And the video of a young lady gyrating on his knee or whatever, and then later on a second video comes out with Urban sort of fondling her or whatever. In between, there was a statement by Urban at the presser on Monday saying that, you know, he was put in a bad situation, put himself in a bad situation, didn't do what he should have done, and they were trying to get him to come to the dance floor. Never a good thing to give too much information. And then all of a sudden another videotape comes out, right? So I'm gonna be clear here. I'm not gonna sit here and judge a person about their marriage. And look, I've been married a long time, and I've been a barber, which means I've been a pseudo fake Dr. Phil counselor for a long time. So I've seen and heard a lot of things, and I know all marriages don't start the same and they don't end the same. So I'm not gonna sit here and try to act like I'm some expert on how people are supposed to conduct themselves when they're married. You know, trust me, I've heard a lot of things with some the things that are allowed and things that people put up with. So like I said, an old pastor told me a long time ago, you are not entitled to be able to tell people when things should end if you weren't there when they began. You don't know how they started, so you don't know how they're going to end. You don't know what people tolerate. You don't know what people agreed to. You don't know how they get down. You don't know how they rock behind closed doors. So it's not your place to sit here and think that all marriages are the same. This is like trying to measure people's faith. Everybody that goes to church doesn't pray the same when behind closed doors. So you don't know. So we're not going to get into that in his personal life and who he owes an apology to and all of that stuff. No, that's not the point. And if you're the type of person, if you didn't like the hire in the first place and you're looking at the first thing to come out and wave your big finger condemnation at a guy, then I'm not talking to you either. You know, you can go ahead and do that by yourself. If you didn't like the hire from the very beginning and you're just looking for a reason to want to run the guy out of here, that's fine. And if you're some hurt Ohio State fan or Florida fan or some hurt Florida State fan or Michigan fan because he used to beat the crap out of you when you were in college, then I'm probably not for you either. I'm not talking to you either. That's not what I'm here for. So this is not that. What this is, with me saying that I don't believe that the Jaguars will ever be champions under Urban Meyer, it has very little to do with any of that, and it has very little to do with one singular incident. Okay, and I'm not downplaying what happened this weekend. I'm just trying to put it in perspective because this podcast is about football. You do have a young and impressionable team. I know 21 to 28-year-olds very well. Whether we want to say it's fortunate or not, most of them probably giggled when they saw the video. Okay. So from that perspective, thinking that somehow they're heartbroken is probably wrong. However, that's probably the problem. When you're a leader, you're not their friend. When you're a leader, coach ain't just like us. When you're a dad, when you're a leader, when you're a military leader, when you're a supervisor, when you are a person in a position of authority, they shouldn't think you're just like them. And that's the problem. You're different. There's a reverence that they have for you where they want to run through a brick wall for you, and they are afraid to disappoint you. If they know that there's nothing they can do to disappoint you because you're probably doing the same things that they're doing, that's a problem. I call it the uncle as opposed to the dad. Every kid may have that dad that's hard on them, but then they have that uncle they can go talk to. That's your position coach. That's not your head coach. There's some things you need to keep away from your daddy because he'll have a conniption. That's what your position coach is for, or one of those quality control coaches for. The head coach's stuff shouldn't be on Front Street. That's a problem. Another problem is you don't take the team playing back after a loss. That's an issue. And it's really an issue when they see what you were doing. You weren't with no grandkids. That's what you were up to. That's a problem because now all of this stuff about being myopically focused on the team is not true. It's an issue. And granted, 21 to 28-year-olds will go, ain't no big deal, coach. That's a problem that they'll do that. There's just lines that just don't need to be crossed. Combine these things with some other things that I'll discuss here today on the show, and I've come to the conclusion that Urban Meyer is not going to ever lead this team to a championship, which means, doesn't mean he's a disaster as a coach, but to me, it means he's not the right person for the job because this entire offseason, what did we talk about? We talked about this being an opportunity with the stars being aligned because of so much poor play and so many bad decisions from the past that the stars were aligned for whoever took this team over to take this team to heights that only a few organizations have ever been able to see. We were talking dynasty. We were saying if they did it right, they wouldn't just be good and they wouldn't just take this team out of purgatory. They would have a chance to take this team into places where there have only been a few organizations. If they did it right, they could do it so good that they could totally change the trajectory of this franchise forever. And now, 4 weeks in, they're one of the winless teams in the league. They're one of the most talked about teams in the league for the wrong reasons. And it doesn't appear it's going to get any better. And that's a problem that I have with Urban Meyer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to detail some things in segment number 2. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that I think are plaguing him that he can't change. And other things in segment 3 that I think long-term, that in order for him to be good, he would have to change that I don't believe he can. Now, does this mean I think he should get fired? Oh, I don't know. I don't think that's going to even be necessary at some point because I believe he's going to realize that he's just not up to the task. And that's the shameful part of this because guys out there are dying for chances to be head coaches. And guys like Urban Meyer are treating the opportunity to be a head coach like changing his socks. I want to talk about all of that stuff here on Locked On Jaguars on a Tuesday as we try to get through all of this stuff. And hopefully before the end of the show, something else hasn't happened to keep the Jaguars in the spotlight for all of the wrong reasons. We'll do it here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. I got to tell you about betonline.ag, man. Betonline.ag is the truth because they're back and better than ever, and all eyes on the gridiron as teams are back for another NFL season. And in college football, I don't know about you, man, but all of those teams that thought that they were going to get a comeuppance on these good college football blue bloods, they got it all right, and they got mollywopped this weekend. So don't ever misjudge those teams that have been doing this stuff for a while. Could have made you some money, man, this past Saturday, and you can do it again this Saturday and Sunday on college and NFL games. With updated site interfaces and even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the #1 source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive 50% welcome bonuses on your first deposit. Don't forget to use the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. We're going to roll along here today on a Tuesday. Of course, you are on the Locked On Jaguars podcast. It is your first listen, and it is free on all platforms and available on all platforms. And we thank you every single day and every single time for making us your first choice and your first listen. All right, so since you're here and you're listening, I'm going to detail some things. If you don't mind, if you pleasure me, I'm going to grab my piece of paper here. And there's some things that I wrote down to make sure that I don't miss anything. When they hired Urban Meyer, one of a couple of things that I talked about and I spoke about and I thought that were going to be good for the Jaguars is that he would be detail oriented, the way that he always seemed to be detail oriented at Florida. He would always build a good staff. Remember, a couple of best coaches in college football right now, Dan Mullen and Coach Ryan Day. You know, he had Charlie Strong. He would always have Adazio. He would always be able to identify the coaches in college, guys who could build teams up and who were really good at that stuff. So I thought he would be able to build coaches. I thought he would be able to be a very detail-oriented team and be prepared. Everywhere he'd gone, he elevated the team, even with teams that he took over that didn't have ready-made talent at Bowling Green and at Utah. They always seemed to overachieve. He was a program builder. And I thought this team in Jacksonville needed a program builder and someone who would provide a stability because they had been sort of unstable for so long here and just kind of all over the place a little bit. And there's a lot of blame to go around for that. And I know everybody just wants to point at one or two people, but it doesn't work that way. Well, I was a little bit wrong. So let me tell you where I think Urban's going wrong here and where it's gone wrong so far here that has made me give up the confidence in him that I once had that this was going to work. And I don't mind being wrong about something because by me being wrong about it, I'm just going to be transparent and tell you exactly where I was wrong. And if I'm wrong again and he's able to turn it around, then I'll come back and say why I was wrong again. But there's no shame in my game for this. First of all, he can't get out of his own way. And what I mean by that is the self-inflicted things and wounds, including this weekend, including hiring the strength coach. When he hired the strength coach and he said, we vetted the situation and we're comfortable with it, no one ever really pressed him. Well, I think D-Rock did, Mike DeRocco from ESPN, but they never really gave a clear answer on this. So when you say you were comfortable, basically, what did you see or not see that made you comfortable enough to hire him? And how did that all of a sudden come up again when you fired him? What did you decide to overlook the things that he did, or did you think that his value was more, the value to the team was more than that was a disruption, or no one ever really pressed him on it too much because it was like, okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt, right? And then not the personally negative part of the Tebow trial, but just the fact that he tried it and Tebow looked so bad when he got game time. And now you really, really see how important that position has been to the point where they had to make a trade. It was just a big waste of time. And then when the team came out of the gate and they were disorganized, between Tebow and Gardner Minshew, just think of those two players, between Gardner Minshew and Tim Tebow, how much time and energy was wasted at those two respective positions. And then look at the fact that the Jaguars started the season 0-2, and Trevor and the tight end position both seem to be behind in certain areas, and the team didn't have an identity. That from a football perspective looked really, really bad. From optically, it looked really, really bad. Then butting heads with the coaches to the point where you hire guys to do what they want to do. You won't let them do what they were hired to do, but then again, you blame them for everything that's going on. Look, there's a guaranteed way things are going to look messed up if you do things halfway one way and halfway another way. You can do them Urban Meyer's way, or you can do them Darrell Bevel's way. And one way may work and one way may not, and the other way may work and the other way may not. But one thing that won't work is when you try to blend and do them both at the same time. And I think that was a problem. I believe the success you've seen them have against the Bengals, especially in the first half, is because somebody convinced Urban to move out of the way and let Darrell Bevel do what he wants to do. That's what I believe. Now, that doesn't mean that Darrell Bevel is great, but it appears that what Darrell Bevel wants to do, the things that we're used to Darrell Bevel doing, is what Darrell Bevel did against Cincinnati. Now, they're not good enough yet to situationally win footballs with talent, but that disjointedness, and then the fact that it's something that he said to Vic Fangio when he said, you tell a long-time NFL assistant it's like playing Alabama every week. That's like, let me give you an NBA analogy. That would be like John Calipari taking an NBA job and telling someone, man, this is like playing Duke every week. No, it's not like playing Duke every week. It's like playing an NBA team every week that would beat Duke by 50 points every time they played them. Alabama does not matter to Vic Fangio. He's not afraid of Alabama the way you are. Get that out of your mind. These are longtime NFL guys. They have dealt with the best of the best every single week. And the fact that you tell this to a longtime NFL assistant who all he knows, his measuring stick for talent is NFL players. It's not college guys. The fact that you're running a team and your measuring stick for what great players are Alabama guys. His measuring stick for what great players are NFL Hall of Famers. That's the difference. And Denver ain't Alabama anyway. That's the thing, and it really made you look like a short order cook trying to cook at Ruth's Chris. That's what it did. It really did. It made you look like a dude who've been burning up steaks at Waffle House, going in there trying to say you knew how to cook steaks. And it was almost embarrassing. So it gives you the sort of idea that you have no clue about personnel, which is why your second round pick wasn't dressing out, which is why your third round pick can't beat out Dewey Wingard, according to you anyway, which is why you weren't running the ball with James Robinson, who's your second best player on offense, which is why you prioritize guys like Philip Dorsett and thought they were good enough in free agency that you didn't really address the wide receiver position in the draft, which is why you traded away Josh Allen before you looked at him, and then you used time on Tim Tebow. So now one of the other things that I thought you were good at, you probably aren't, and that's personnel. And that's an issue. If you're not good at personnel in the NFL, you're not good. So now I'm left to think, what is he good at? And here's the problem. I'm having a hard time finding anything, not only that he's good at, but that he's better than anyone else. This is why I'm at the conclusion that I don't know. He may end up being good if he hangs around long enough, but I'm convinced that he'll never be the guy that wins a championship, because I don't think he'll change. And I don't think he's at the point that he'll ever have the patience that's required to change. And I'm going to go through some of those things, and I'm going to go through one by one, and I'm going to ask out loud, rhetorically, in segment 3, what is he better than, or what is he good enough at, or what can he change about himself in order to make himself good enough in those areas to elevate this franchise to a championship level, not just a competent level, a championship level. And I'll do it in segment 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models of vehicles, it's now impossible for you at your local chain anyway to get auto parts that actually stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions like what size your engine is? Oh, God, I get sick of that question. And how many liters does your engine hold? When you just go buy something as simple as motor oil. Kind of makes me tired and makes me sick. I just want somebody to be able to give me what I want and let me be able to leave. So Here's the thing. You got to save time and money when you use Rock Auto. That's first. And then why choose to spend 30 to 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? And you don't have to go to one of those places where you got to take a wrench and go out there and pull it off of one of these used, beat up, wrecked cars either. That you don't know how long those parts last. You need to get new parts. Rock Auto is a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. They have everything you need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So here's what you do. You go to rockauto.com right now, and you'll see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in there. How did you hear about us box, so that they know we sent you. An amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need are at rockauto.com. And we're rolling along here in segment 3 on a Tuesday. And we're going to ask these hard questions, man. At least I'm looking at my ticker here and nothing else has happened. And that's the other disappointing part. Is like, when I say that Urban can't get out of his own way, it's just constantly something going on, something happening that is negative when it comes to Jaguars. And when there was all of this good news and all of this goodwill heading into this season, you got to be a little bit of a major screw up to mess this up, right? Even though you had a bunch of detractors and a bunch of haters, you also had a lot of people pulling for you and supporting you if you're Urban Meyer. And to get to the point where your body language is so bad that you can't stare at the camera, you're looking down at your feet. You ain't the friendliest person in the world that I found. Or, that's not necessarily a requirement. You don't have to be extremely friendly. You don't have to be that person that's kikiing and smiling in people's face all the time. And I get that. The thing is, man, is when you're not, all of this stuff often bites you in the butt. Now, there are people out there calling for his job. There are people saying all of these meetings are going on, these secret meetings. I don't know what that means. Football teams have meetings all the time that they don't allow people to be privy to. But one thing I can tell you, or two things, or a few things I can tell you is, in order for this franchise to elevate, they have to be better at something or some things than other teams. The only thing that they've talked about that ad nauseum they've said that they're going to be better than, and they said that they're going to outwork everyone. And one of my pet peeves with people that say that they're going to outwork everyone is that they actually have to be paying attention to how hard somebody else is working in order to say that. And if you're looking at somebody else and how hard they're working, that means you could be working. So I don't know how you're going to measure whether or not you're working harder than everyone else when you're not that familiar with the NFL. It appears that, Urban is constantly saying how he's getting used to the NFL and how he doesn't quite, he's getting used to how they're doing things. Even back in the draft and free agency, was like, you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, stop whining, because nobody else was able to talk to guys. No, every single thing that everyone else was able to do, you were able to do too. So Urban and his crew actually had an advantage because they came from the world of college. So they knew these guys. They knew the college players just about as good as anybody or better. So there was no reason that they shouldn't have been had a little bit of a clear advantage on college. The problem is that Urban didn't know very many NFL coaches. I wonder why. In the NFL, there's a little less room for coaches to be individuals, just like the dress code with the players. There's not much individuality. Just like when you go from stadium to stadium, the music sort of sounds the same and the flow of the game is the same, and all of the games sort of end within 5 minutes of each other. It's a brand, and that's what it is. So within the coaching circles and the way that coaches do things, the analogy I'll give you is it's almost like sitting down and playing poker. Everyone knows the rules. Everyone understands poker. You don't play a 2-7 offsuit. Jack 10, especially Jack 10 suited. Jack 10 almost always win. Pocket kings and pocket queens and pocket aces are good. You can raise when you have those things. High cards are always good. Whenever you have the best pair, you always raise the pot to flush people out. You don't wait on gut shots and stuff like that, right? So everyone knows the rules of poker. It's just that the people who do things at the correct time seem to be able to play poker better than people who don't. That's sort of the way the NFL is as a coach. You have to know when. You have to know how to push certain buttons. And it requires a certain amount of patience and ability to communicate. And I think Urban does not have patience, and I don't think he's the greatest communicator. So these are two of the leading reasons why I don't think he's going to ever lead this team to a championship. And then you ask, what is he better than anybody? He talks about outworking people, and they talk about strength and conditioning. I think other people lift weights, and I think other people work hard. So those are not two things that you can hang your hat on. In the NFL, that doesn't work. In the NFL, you have to be better at talent evaluation, and you have to be better at communication. And I don't believe he's better at talent evaluation, and I don't believe he's better at communication, and I don't believe he's better at X's and O's. So that's probably three things, right? Preparation, no. Dedication, nah, because you don't even fly back on the team plane after a loss, and your players are probably looking around wondering where the hell you are, and then they see a video of you and little hot cutie in the club, and they're saying, oh, that's where he was. Focus, doesn't seem like it. You can't even remember people's name half the time. Personnel, that doesn't seem right. You don't seem to know talent. Free agency didn't do much this year other than your kick returner, and you didn't get much in the draft, right? Detail oriented. You didn't come out of camp very detail oriented, did you? Staff, doesn't seem like you like half those people that you picked from the NFL, right? What is Urban Meyer better at than, or at least really, really astute at, the thing that they do that's going to separate them from anybody in the NFL? I'm waiting. Talk a good game. What is it? What tangible thing has he shown you that will let you know I was a buyer in Urban Meyer? I'm selling right now. I can't figure it out. I can't see it. And it's not one incident. And that's what I'm telling you. It's not one incident. It's all of it. And the reason why I'm going so broad and macro with this is because I said from the very beginning, they had a chance to do something special with the way that this was set up. And now I think under the current administration, I don't think that that's even possible. They won't come anywhere near their possibilities with him in charge. And that's a sad thing, man. It's a sad thing for Jacksonville. It's a sad thing for the fans. It's a sad thing for Trevor Lawrence. But we'll have to see how it plays out. We'll definitely have to see how it plays out from this point forward, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff left to happen, and we'll see what goes on. Now, thanks for making Locked On Jaguars your first listen every day. Now, make your second listen to Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available on all platforms. I want to thank you, man, for showing up here on Locked On Jaguars with me, your man Tony Wiggins. We do it every day because that's what we do, because it's your team every day. And continue to take care of each other, man. If there's any news or anything that comes out of Jaguars camp, I will be the first to let you know, because it's your team every day, and we are your first listen every day, and we're glad to be that. Take care until tomorrow.